Today I'm going to be talking about Prop 22, the changes it made, and specifically how it affected insurance and how it affects drivers that may get into an accident. A couple things you should know is that Prop 22 actually changed certain regulations, and you can find some more information about that here. But there were changes, for example, to the Business and Professions Code, which I pulled up through the website Justia. And one of the things that it mentions here is that um, they made changes to protections, including a healthcare subsidy consistent with the average contributions required under the Affordable Care Act, which is basically providing a subsidy related to health insurance or health care, a new minimum earnings guarantee tied to 120% of the minimum wage with no maximum, and then occupational accident insurance to cover on the job injuries and protection against discrimination and sexual harassment. And here, under California Business and Professions Code 7455, it shows specifically some of the legislation that was made related to loss and liability protection. And it says for the benefit of app based drivers, occupational accident insurance to cover medical expenses and lost income resulting from injuries suffered while the app based driver is online with a network company's online enabled application or platform. And then they shall provide a minimum of up to $1 million for medical expenses, disability payments up to a certain amount, and then they define that. And then they also define accidental death insurance. A couple things that are important that I want to point out here is that the benefit is related to medical expenses and lost income. And why is that important? Well, oftentimes medical expenses or lost income, while they're important, sometimes your medical expenses might be covered by health insurance. But if you don't have money to get medical, to pay for medical, it's going to be really hard to spend that money and then ask for it to be reimbursed. And it could be months later because you're dealing with an insurance company. Alternatively, if you have an attorney that's handling the case, then they may be able to get you treatment that you can reimburse later and you don't have to pay out of pocket. But if there's a dispute about who's at fault or liability, an attorney might not want to take the case and you're going to be stuck with that. Then you've got lost wages, which is nice that they're going to recover that. But again, you're going to have to present evidence that you were going to earn that money and the insurance company is going to fight you on it. And then finally, a really important point is that it doesn't mention anything about pain and suffering or future problems that you may have. Sometimes people have injuries where maybe their lost wages are a certain amount, their medical bills, but the pain and the suffering, the effect on their life, the harm to their life in the future, it's affected maybe their marriage. Injuries can do all sorts of things, and that's why it's important to have coverage for pain and suffering. The and this coverage is something that'll step in, and you can still recover uninsured or underinsured motorists if you're during a ride or you're on your way to pick someone up. But sometimes you'll have to go through this procedure first, and this is what I'm seeing on some of my cases where you have to first go through and just fight about medical bills and lost wages. And what it's ending up doing is making the cases last longer and really allowing the insurance company multiple steps in order to try to drive down the amount that they have to pay. And it just causes more litigation. And ultimately, I think this doesn't necessarily benefit drivers. I really wish they had something simpler like just uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage like most of us have, which would have covered medical bills and lost wages, or maybe a certain amount just where it would get paid right away, like it's called medical pay in California, where you get a certain amount paid right away, but you still have this uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage that can work. However, I suppose it's better than them offering nothing, but it's one of these laws that they created that sometimes maybe had unintended consequences. I'll also point out that recently there was a case that went to the California Court of Appeals, and they found that largely Prop 22 was constitutional. There was some sections that they found were not constitutional, where I think it affected some of the legislature's ability to define words and things like that. But this is a ruling and a law that we're probably going to be dealing with for a long time. So if you have any questions about Prop 22, and specifically if you're a rideshare driver that was in an accident and has questions about how the insurance works or what they can claim, please contact my office and follow for more legal tips.